everyone, and thank you for joining us for another episode of That Solo Life, the podcast about owning your own PR and marketing business. And it's also a podcast for really most self-employed people or people in business. We kind of cover a lot of bases. I am Michelle Kane of Voice Matters LLC, and I'm here with my co-host, Karen Swim of Words for Hire. And we are very excited because we have someone else with us today. We are so thrilled to have as our guest Daria Steigman of Steigman Communications, and she is going to talk to us about her road trip that she took recently. Isn't she, Karen?
Yes, she is. Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I could not be more thrilled that Daria was able to make time to be with us today. I have known Daria for several years and have always respected the work that she does. Just loved being around her, learned so much from her, and she's also quite the kick in the pants. She knows so much about so many different things, but she's also quite funny and just a delight to be around. So, as Michelle said, Daria owns Steigman Communications. It's a small integrated marketing communication firm that provides marketing and communication support and strategic counsel to companies, associations, and international organizations. And she's been doing this for more than 20 years, even though she looks like a teenager, and still has a very vibrant, youthful outlook on life. She is fantastic at, really crafting data-driven strategies to support core business goals. And again, I personally learned a lot from her about doing just that. She has a very diverse client base that includes companies, universities, associations, government agencies, and international organizations. And she is a frequent speaker, highly sought after, who speaks on topics related to both business strategy, marketing communications, and digital media. And I could go on and on and on. And she is a baseball fan. So for all of you people on Twitter, you definitely want to follow her because she talks baseball all the time and she knows her game and she interacts with the players and other fans. And she loves to road trip. So Daria, welcome.
Thank you. And thank you for that lovely introduction. I'm delighted to be here.
Perfect. Thank you. So Daria, we're having you on it. It was more than just a simple road trip. It was a road trip that was born out of a very challenging period in your own life. And we want to talk about that because as solo PR pros, we all have met and faced kind of those seasons in life when life seems very, bigger than the business. So can you kind of provide a quick overview of what inspired this road trip journey?
No, most people, as you both know, but most people don't. I lost both of my parents in a 9-month period between November 2017 and August or early September 2018. So by the time I had grieved my mother, helped my father, grieved my father, was trying to take care of my dad's estate following the combination of the two. And I was both physically exhausted, but mentally exhausted and knew that I needed a change of pace. Plus, I had also promised my brother that I would come out to the West Coast to see him. And since I hate to fly, I thought, why not road trip?
That's a great idea. That's a great idea.
And
yeah, go ahead.
So Daria, this wasn't just like driving around the corner. How, tell us more about, that this was an epic road trip, which is why I call it the Eat, Love, Pray road trip of a lifetime.
I know people still are coming up to me and saying, I just kept thinking, were you ever coming home? I ended up taking 2 months, and I probably would have stayed out longer had it not been for some really horrible weather out west in mid-May. But I had decided that if I was going to take time off, I really didn't have a reason I had to be in Washington, and I knew I could work from pretty much anywhere and thought I would test that and decided to I ended up doing 6,917 miles in my car, and took a southern route down and a northern route back, and just thought I'd visit some friends, I'd see some places I wanted to see. I would have just some me time, which I think, the single most important thing that I needed at that moment.
Definitely. And as you mentioned, as solos, we can work from anywhere. But taking our office on the road does require a little bit of planning. So what were the main parts of this undertaking that you put into place before you hit the road?
I think there's a couple things, but I think before I want to sort of take a step back for a second, because
Sure.
some of it had to do with the things I did a little bit after my mother died, but certainly when my father went in the hospital and passed away. Because at that point, whatever brain cells had been functioning for the previous 9 months disintegrated.
Yeah.
And so a certain number of what was in place by the road trip had been in place before the road trip. I had put certain pieces of my business on hold. I have to this day done virtually no business development for almost 2 years now. That's not necessarily a good thing, but it was what I just, glad handing was just not in my, not something I could handle. I put my blog on hold because after my father passed away, because both of my parents, my mother read it every week. My father used to call me up and edit it for me. He'd come up, he'd say, "Here's your editor calling." And I think so mentally to this day, although I have lots of topics for the blog, I haven't been able to do it. And I just kind of gave myself permission to let some of these things go.
Right.
And those made it easier to then prepare for a road trip, because I'd already carved out what I thought I could manage and what I thought I can't in terms of business. So the core business kept going. All the things to make the business long-term sustainable got theoretically put on hold.
Well, that makes sense because you were already in that mode of, unfortunately, crisis. And I guess in retrospect, what could you share with other solo PR pros of, it's hard to say like, you can't be ready all the time for such a big life event, but what are some of the small things to perhaps do or be on the lookout for so that when the inevitable does happen, that we're more prepared?
There are a few things, and a few of them I put in the business bucket, and a few I put in the personal bucket. But
Sure.
They all, when we're solos, we know they kind of go together. It's important to have a network of friends and know who. My business isn't such. The way my business works, I don't do media relations, so I don't have that instant today. This has to go out here. I obviously have deadlines and things, but it's not the same as if you're pitching on an ongoing basis. If you're pitching on an ongoing basis, you really need to know who's going to step in for you before you need someone.
Right.
Even so, since you both kindly helped me with getting an article written that I had done all the legwork for, but had no brain power to write, find people who can help you do some of these things. Understand where they are. Also, make sure you have cash flow, because when a crisis hits, you may not be able to work or you may not want to work. I was fortunate that largely I was able to keep working, or because I have a number of retainer clients and I could keep doing things for them. But particularly if you're project based, if you don't have the brain power to go and look for work or to keep those projects going, you have to have somebody you have to have cash flow. So you're not both freaking out over money at the same time that you're freaking out over everything else.
Right.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And I would finally, there's another thing that I think we don't talk about enough, and I know you talked about it a little bit on one of your recent podcasts, which is you have to be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
We're not machines. Yeah. And I had to accept that things had to go and not beat myself up for it. I had to accept that everything wasn't going to be perfect and not beat myself up over it. and not feel guilty that I'm not doing something. Talk to your clients, work out deadlines, have good clients, have good relationships up front with your clients so that they aren't, mean and evil people. Hopefully nobody's clients are mean and evil, but there are some out there.
Well, exactly. And it kind of speaks to the broader business practice of that communication, so that when something does happen, it's okay. It's really okay.
And that kind of brings up a question, because I know this comes up quite frequently for business owners, micro agencies, and solos. How much do you disclose? Do you carry on business as usual and just kind of hold up the banner? How much do you disclose to your clients, and at what point do you disclose? Do you disclose as this event is unfolding, or do you disclose when it hits the crisis point?
I think that's one of those questions that it comes up a lot because the opinions are all over the place. My philosophy of business has always been to be open with my clients, and to not, your clients aren't your friends necessarily. Sometimes they are, but to have to have some sort of a personal relationship. So my own thing is, I have always told my clients, anytime my parents are in the hospital, I have to work this out, but it's going to take some time. I mean, I had a huge deliverable right when my mother went in the hospital the week before she died. And I called them and said, I can get this done for you, but it may take a little more time because my mom's in the hospital. And clients are understanding. And so I think it's when you don't tell them, and it's not that things slip, but you may forget to then sort of tell them something. You're better off in my opinion, you're better off disclosing up front.
Yeah. I mean, I believe that as communicators, it's all in how we craft the message, right? So when you portray confidence and you're, forthcoming, direct, and you have a plan, hey, this is going on, but I want you to know that these 3 things that we discussed will get done. And if I am called away on an emergency, I wanted to introduce you to so-and-so and make sure you have their contact information. They've been brought fully up to speed and they're prepared to step in should something urgent happen. If you sound incapable, then that is going to put your clients, I think, less at ease. And so I think you have to get into that space, take a break, and make sure that you can convey the message with confidence, because life does happen to all of us, whether you're self-employed or you're traditionally employed. And as long as they see that you're handling it and you have a plan for them, I think that they are okay.
Right. It
Absolutely.
speaks to the larger concept of really just managing those expectations in everyday work of timelines and getting things done. And it's great that they were so understanding. So
it is.
Yeah. So you kind of told us, you've traveled south, you traveled north. Where did you go, and what were your favorite spots?
So I started in Nashville because I'd always wanted to go to Nashville. And cool. I want to go back to Nashville because I feel like I wasn't really yet in a frame. I neither understood how best to travel and work, nor was I yet, because it was my first stop, in a frame of mind to do that coherently. So right. I definitely want to go back, but I love the country. Going to give a shout out to the Country Hall of Fame, Country Hall of Fame Museum, because it was awesome. But I went from there and I did Nashville, Memphis, Little Rock, Oklahoma City, where I have very good friends. And then I went up to Santa Fe, across via Flagstaff, lots of breweries, to Vegas, spent a few days in Vegas, and then went across to the Pacific Coast Highway and up the coast to the Bay Area, where my brother is.
Nice. Very nice.
Stayed there for about 2.5 weeks. And then I hit just horrible weather everywhere I went between there and Cheyenne. So I wanted to go all the way up to Glacier, national park and the weather wasn't cooperating, I got chain alerts in a couple places I was. So I kind of went to Tahoe, worked my way through to Salt Lake City, went up to Cheyenne, and then after Cheyenne, the weather was still really bad everywhere I was looking at. So I just came home at that point and decided I would go back out on the road later.
So tell us, I mean, we tend to think, oh, you're in the US, Wi-Fi is everywhere, and this is pretty easy, but then you quickly learn not so much. And so tell us how because you did do work on the road, the work that,
Yes.
You could manage while you were traveling along. So what are some things that you learned and can share to help anybody else who's maybe even, thinking of doing a road trip and keeping work going?
Yeah, so I was working. There were days that I didn't get out of the hotel room till 3 p.m. More days than maybe I might have liked it sometimes. But it's good because you need your clients and you appreciate them. I think I learned a few things. The first, I stayed in hotels, so I'm not a Airbnb person. So it's different experiences. The hotels have more reliable Wi-Fi in the hotels consistently. And so that helped me. I had a bag that had every single cable and my computer and every connected device. And that went into the hotel every single night, obviously, because that's the most important thing I needed. But I learned that in order to both work and travel and sightsee, you need to stay somewhere more than a night, and you can't do days and days of travel. So had I wanted to go just drive across to the West Coast, I would have probably driven across in 4 to 6 days and not worked and just driven. But in order to work, I would generally stay somewhere 3 to 4 nights so I could see a little bit of things, get a fair amount of work done. The East Coast, West Coast, those of you who are on coast and have clients on the other coast probably know this, can be really tough. So it was important for me to let clients know that what time zone I was in. So they would know, for example, if they sent me, my East Coast clients sent me something in the morning and I don't respond until noon, it's because I just woke up.
Yeah, good point. That's not something that I actually thought about. So you're saying that if you are planning your own epic road trip, build in extra time to actually stay in locations, maybe a little bit longer than you would if you were just traveling with no work and just taking a pure vacation.
Yes, because what happened I had 2 nights in Memphis, which worked out because the main thing I wanted to do in Memphis was go to the Civil Rights Museum. But I had 2 nights in Nashville, and I worked until about noon, which meant the one day I had in Nashville, which meant I didn't really have very much time in Nashville. So after that sort of epic to San Francisco, to Oklahoma City, I realized I need 3 or 4 days so I can go to a museum, wander around, see some things. There were days in Vegas where I worked till 3 or 4 in the afternoon, and then I said, well, if I don't get outside now, I'm not going to see sunlight. And then I would go out and I would do something. But prioritizing getting work done for my clients when they had things that were due was critical. There were some things I negotiated with them. I negotiated to, as a friend of mine called it, go see the fishies. When I wanted to go to the aquarium. Mm-hmm. And I had there was a day I wanted to go and a client had something they needed. And I said, I'm going to be off either today or tomorrow. I'm going to the Monterey Aquarium. I can do this for you today. And she texted back, no, go see the fishies. Do it tomorrow.
That's so funny.
That's great. That's great. And it speaks to the fact that, even though we're solo business owners, our clients are accustomed to people taking vacation days or, not being in the office. And I think sometimes we can almost silo ourselves with our behavior, because I know I've been on site with clients sometimes and I'm thinking, oh, why are these people stopping to talk to me? People talk during the workday. And I realized,
That's
oh, right,
hilarious.
this is how normal happens. But anyway, that's fantastic. So did this experience bring you anything unexpected, like any new insights that kind of surprised you along the way?
A couple of things. I think one of them is just how good people are. And we live in our own little bubbles. And especially if you live in Washington, D.C., you live in a particular kind of a bubble. And lots of people who don't live here, but talk about us. So I think just getting out and seeing the country and realizing just how beautiful and awesome and how nice people are, most people are, and just sort of the variety of who we are. I think the other is something about my clients. After my mother passed away, one of my clients, it was my father, because it was just before I was going to sell the house and do a memorial service. I went down to New Orleans for their conference. A friend of mine road tripped down with me, and I said, no, I want to go. I need to get out of town for a few days. They got me a corner room on one of the top floors. And
nice.
I think I had the single nicest room of pretty much anybody, but don't tell the people there, because everyone else was on the lower floor. And I walk in and I have this beautiful giant room with views of the Mississippi and looking out over the city. And it was just like, I pretty much stayed in that room other than when I had to be working. I got room service. I needed just some quiet me space, and it was this beautiful, relaxing, gorgeous room. And it was unexpected, and it was beautiful.
That's great. Yeah, and a perfect setting for some decompression for you, some much needed decompression. So that was really a nice gift.
Nice.
And now that you've been back for a couple months and you've had the opportunity to sort of digest the trip, did the trip in any way change or open up a new perspective about your business or about life?
I think it's a good question. Not an easy question, but a good question. I think it opened up some perspective, more about life than, and in some sense, it's also about my business, that there are different ways to run your business. And it doesn't have to be, I've never been one to sit in my office all day, but it doesn't have to be out of your office, that you can work from anywhere, that you can spend half your day going somewhere else and taking time for you and still get a lot of work done. There's a whole big world out there, and we spend so much time in our cocoons that it's easy to forget that on a day-to-day basis. And just getting out of yourself, understanding you can take a day off. I was at Muir Woods, and Muir Woods, I know, Karen, you've probably been there, where the redwood trees are. It's absolutely beautiful, and it has the added benefit of having no cell service.
Nice.
So no one could reach me until later that day when everything started pinging like crazy when I came out of there and across the mountain. But it's okay it's okay to just be disconnected, and the world will go on, and your business will go on, and people will still like you and hire you.
Has that change stuck with you since coming back? Do you find that you're approaching things a little bit differently, taking more time out of the office?
Yes, I'm trying to put that in place. I was up in Philadelphia and visiting Michelle a couple weeks ago. I am planning to take off for a long week before the Labor Day weekend and take some time off. So I'm trying to do that. I've been trying to get to an exhibit. I haven't quite gotten there, museum exhibit downtown, but I'm trying to put that in place. And the other thing that goes with that, which is something else I did on the road that we haven't talked about, but is important, which is working out on the road. Particularly if you're doing an epic road trip, you've got to, I don't always eat great, but at least I can make my muscles realize that they exist.
Right.
And I tried really hard to work out consistently while I was on the road.
especially in that driving position for long stretches of time. It definitely takes its toll.
And I'm usually good about stopping, but one of the things you discover if you don't live on the East Coast or the West Coast is there's large swaths of the country where there's nowhere to stop. So you better be prepared, and you better know. I mean, there were a couple of times where I'd pull off the side of the road at some rando place you didn't really want to stop and answer an email and then get back on the road. But you have to figure out
tumbleweeds as you're headed west.
Like, it's not just in the movies, it's real.
It's real. You're like, okay, there's no one around anywhere. I think we're not getting out of the car. We'll just stretch right here and jump back on the highway.
Yeah.
Well, along those lines, did you have any moments where you're like, oh, you cannot make this stuff up? I can't believe this is happening.
Oh, I had a couple. One was the hotel I was supposed to stay at in Memphis was undergoing renovations. And when I say they were undergoing renovations, I don't mean like they were renovating a wing of the hotel and while you were in another hotel. I mean, I got into my room and one of the signs said, "We're doing renovations. The plumber will need to come in. If you have the do not disturb sign on, the plumber will still come in."
Oh no.
Yeah, we went downstairs, said we were checking out, went back upstairs and started calling around for another hotel.
Yeah, I can imagine.
The other one was that was the time I walked into the wrong hotel. right in the front, walked in the hotel, went up the elevator, was thinking, I thought the hotel only had 3 floors, not 4. Okay, whatever, get off to the 3rd floor, tried to put my key card and it didn't work, and then looked and said, oh, maybe I'm in the wrong hotel.
I love it.
That's amazing.
In my defense, my hotel was right next door, and they all look alike after a while.
Right, yeah. They'll look like the same kind of boxes, right?
Yeah. I mean, one thing I did do is I texted the friends every night what hotel I was in and what hotel room I was in. One of the advantages of texting what hotel room you're in is not for them, it's for you. Because you're going to go, what hotel am I in?
Where am I? It's like, or taking a picture of your car where you park.
Yeah. Or
the
other thing which I did was I went through a flood zone in my Prius. Now, my defense, yes, the Google Maps was taking me back I was trying to avoid Chicago and that route coming back out of Lincoln, Nebraska, but it sent me through Iowa in the middle of a flood. And suddenly I find myself, I hit this little corner of Iowa you go through. I find myself on a 1-lane elevated. Entire fields and farms are flooded below me. The water is seeping out from the bottom. If any more rain comes, it will seep right onto the cars. I have 2 Winnebagos in front, a pickup truck behind me. I'm in my little Prius, and I'm going, hopefully this doesn't last that long. Okay, we just have to keep going. That's all you can do. And then suddenly I get from my Google machine, stop, road bad, turn around now. And I'm looking going, yeah, I don't think so.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
That's an amazing, yeah.
It's just that reminder to check the road conditions everywhere.
Well, it's funny you say that because I was wishing for just that thing because, Google Maps and GPS, it's great for traffic, this, that, and the other. But last month, there were some really bad rains here in Pennsylvania. And, flash flood warnings, they say that all the time. It never mattered. Well, it matters now. And we were just driving all around thinking, it's like, well, come on, GPS, tell me, is there a flood up ahead?
Good point.
Yeah, and that's where the highway, I mean, I got good at checking the interstate ones to find out if there was snow and chains alerts, but it didn't because it didn't occur, and I knew where to be careful at that point for tornado alerts because I had driven through 6 hours of blinding rain, and I knew the whole Midwest was a tornado zone in that period. But the thing that hadn't occurred to me was, and that's just because I was in my own little travel bubble, that I would get routed through a flood zone. So I immediately, once I got through that, picked up the phone and called a friend and said, "Are you near a computer? Can you look up for me whether it's safe where the road I'm on?"
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. These are the things you don't quite think of when you hop in your car.
No.
Wow.
But now we all do.
Now we are. Now we will.
We learn from each other. We'll learn from you.
Lesson
That
learned.
is quite a journey.
Yeah.
Yeah. Speaking of, did you somehow record this in any way? You know, photos or notes?
I did. I actually did something that surprised me. Is I took a bazillion photos. Well, that didn't surprise me. I started using Instagram, which Karen's
Cool.
going to laugh at because we kept talking about how for the longest time I couldn't understand it. Is Karen, I think you once said to me, Instagram just isn't your jam. And I finally...
But now it is.
But now it is. I mean, I finally figured out how it made sense for me as a way of keeping up with people, of sharing things, of sharing places I'd been and things I was seeing. And some of them, are the same pictures everyone else has. Some of them are, just wow. I mean, neon signs from the Neon Museum. Beautiful. And some just are things you can't record in a picture. It's kind of, I wasn't at the Grand Canyon, but you can't take a picture of the Grand Canyon and have it tell you anything. I think Salt Lake City was beautiful, the location. You can't take a picture around Salt Lake City and have it show that at all.
Right. It just doesn't compare to what's in front of you. But
so I road tripped
cool.
my way across Instagram.
That's fantastic.
I love it. And of course I follow the post, but I love it. That's fantastic.
Finally got you on the gram. Do you Insta story though? Have you gone that far?
No, I haven't Insta storied, but I can't figure out how to Facebook story either. So we're kind of on a.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah, I'm like, I'm already storing on Instagram. Go away, Facebook. You're just for posting.
Yeah.
There you go. That's not Instagram storing me yet. We're just still at the baby step stage.
Okay, but that's fine. Hey, we're glad you're on the gram.
Thank you.
So after all of this, would you do it again? Because you did kind of allude to your next road trip. And do you recommend making this a regular practice or something like this, a regular practice for us solo pros?
I think as solo pros, getting away, which is something you talked about in a recent podcast, on a regular basis is important. It's a great way to clear your head, get new perspective. Working from a different place sometimes just gets your brain it just sort of like shoos away the cobwebs. That's undust, whatever the actual phrase is supposed to be. But I think in my case, I wouldn't recommend road tripping unless you like to drive. So let's just put that one out there, because some people are going to be like, no way am I driving 1,000 miles. But part of it is true. I would, because I think it was just such a joy to talk to. I like people. It was such a joy to actually be around other people and to meet other people and get their perspectives on the world, on life, on the towns they live in, on just stuff, like normal stuff that people do when they're not stuck in their own little world. And I think just that in itself is golden. And being able to travel and, as they say, not driving 10, 12 hours a day. Most days I drove maximum 4 to 6 and really did bite-sized. It was sort of bite-sized days and a few days and then a few days somewhere, particularly in places where I wanted to be somewhere for a little while. And you don't have to do it in an epic way, in my epic way. You can do it in I'm going up to Philadelphia for the weekend. I'm going to go visit friends in Minneapolis for 5 days and take the week. But I think one of the advantages of doing it as a working trip is it's not all cash out. There's cash in while the cash is going out.
True.
And one, people kept looking at me going, you're driving yourself, you're taking all this time. And I kept saying, yeah, but I'm working my way across the country.
Right.
I'm not independently wealthy. I'm actually working to pay my bills.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we still need to make the money. We need to make the gas money.
Gotta make the gas money. And I think that it psychologically helps because you're traveling, no matter how cheaply you do it or don't do it, those bills start piling up. And we all know they start piling up. And you're looking at those bills going, oh my God, I have to pay this bill. But if you've been like, oh, no problem, I'm work, pay the bill, cash in, cash out. It's just it's a lot easier.
Definitely alleviates the stress
a lot less
of
stressful.
it.
Yes.
Yeah, which is the whole point.
Which is the whole point.
Wow. Well, I have certainly learned a lot, and am almost inspired to take a road trip because it sounds like such a fun time.
I know. I can't even get myself to go to a co-working place. I'm like, but I don't have my whoopee. I don't have my files.
Well, the advantage of your car, is everything can go in it with you. At one point, I had so many pairs of shoes in my car. I started just leaving them in the car because I had bought cowboy boots and I got to Nashville and I had left my favorite pair of Steve Madden sneakers. So I went to the outlet store and bought a pair. And then I had bought a pair of sandals. And I just, after a while, all the shoes, the hiking boots, all the shoes stayed in the car. And I would just carry shoes up and down every day, depending what I wanted to wear.
My car is my closet.
My car is my closet.
Oh, this is incredible, Daria. Thanks so much for taking the time to share this epic adventure with us and, just sharing the wealth of knowledge that you learned and the benefits from it. And, I know Karen and I, we both think the world of you and think you're just amazing. And now you've inspired us and hopefully our listeners too.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're so thankful that you took time out of the day to join us and kind of share this journey. And hopefully our listeners have not only had fun sharing in your adventures, but learned some things that they can put into to practice when life happens, because it happens to all of us.
Oh, it does. It certainly does.
Yep.
But yeah, so Daria, we hope this is your first, but hopefully not your last visit to that solo life. It's been great having company on this podcast, and we hope that our listeners, you out there, are enjoying it as well. Make sure you subscribe to our podcast and visit soloprpro.com to learn how you can find all our episodes.
Absolutely. Thank you. And we will see you all next week.